Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the big games which took place over the weekend. Manchester United holding Arsenal to a 1-1 draw. And of course, big upset by Nottingham Forest over Man City. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returned into the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, Christoph, some massive results over the weekend, and we are going no place else other than the theater of dreams, Christoph. Arsenal was still in with a very slim chance of chasing down Liverpool, but all seem to be lost with this result now, drawing 1-1 to Manchester United. Talk to us about that game. How did you see it?
Um, Definitely a poor draw for Arsenal. Probably more massive for United in terms of them, thinking that they could probably compete with the big boys. But it's just one of those games where United usually turns up for it. Same thing, when United play Liverpool, they turn up regardless of how poor they've been all season. It's just that type of match. So I don't consider it a turning point or anything like that for Manchester United, especially considering the way that they played most of the first half. But again, is what we say, Arsenal kind of struggling, without a striker in that game. Uh, a striker would have definitely applied pressure to the defense, if not necessarily getting on the end of the chances. It pulls up the defense. It forces them to do things versus, Moreno, he's been doing a good job, but playing as a false nine, against a deep line, I don't think make much sense unless you're going to be, shooting a lot from distance. So
Yeah, I
it
mean,
was more a
Arsenal was
target man
lacking that
type game.
cutting edge as well. Yeah, Arsenal was lacking that cutting edge. As I mentioned in the preview, that the creation. So it's not as if Mourinho is getting chances and missing, or even the forwards, whoever is playing the wide left or the wide right. They're not getting chances and missing. The chances are not being created, Christoph. That cutting
No,
edge
no,
is
not
lacking
no,
or
no, no,
missing.
no, 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 not in this game, not in this game. In the previous two Premier League fixtures, I would agree with that, but not in this game. There are a lot of chances created in this match, but there's nobody on the end of them per se. Or the finishing was lacking in this game. But there were a lot of chances created. Odegaard, I think, had an excellent game throughout. This is probably his best game all season. He looked back to his best in this one. So it was a matter of, not having somebody who can finish in this particular game. That was the case for me. Last two Premier League games, definitely lacking the cutting edge. It seems they've found back the cutting edge, but nobody to finish the chances in this game.
Well, again, another issue that Arteta need to fix going forward, or indeed over the summer, maybe it's a case of either getting back the injured players or finding a striker who can
Well,
put
the the
in
the, the
20 plus goals in the season.
Well, it's not something that will be fixed until the summer because the two centre forwards, Kai Havertz and Jesus, are out for the remainder of the season. So
Right?
that
But
is
when fit, can they do the business though? That's the question.
no,
Or
I
does
don't.
Arsenal need another out and
I,
out number nine, so to
I
speak?
mean, I've been saying it for 3 seasons now. Neither of them are suitable as your first choice. They can do a job, but they are not first choice. You need to find yourself a first choice, 20 plus
So would
goal a
you add
season.
to what's there, or do you have to sell a striker in order to make room for a quality nine to come in? Or would you keep Kai and Jesus and bring in an additional body, or you would sell one of them and then bring a nine?
I think it's down to the market, really. Personally, I would sell Jesus and keep Havertz. Jesus, I think, when fit, can do a job. Like I said, when he fit and in form, he's very disruptive to opposition defensive, so it's very useful. But I mean, if I could sell him, I would sell him just because of the whole injury situation with him, very injury prone. I wouldn't keep an injury prone player in my team, regardless of how good they are.
Right.
But that's just my personal opinion. Arteta seems to favor him a lot. He gets the start more often than not, but definitely regardless of if you sell anybody or not, a striker must come in. A first choice striker must come in summer.
Ah,
That must be
lots to
Arsenal's
ponder, lots to ponder,
that must
especially
be
with.
Arsenal's priority signing in the summer. And it must be their first signing in the summer. Anything else tells me that they're not serious about anything.
But I mean, outside of a striker though, Christoph, just looking ahead for Arsenal, because in my opinion, the chase for first is over. That's a pipe dream at this point in time. It's a case of maintaining your status in the top four, and at this rate, Arsenal need to be looking over their shoulder because definitely the chase back for that top four is really pushing hard. The likes of a Nottingham Forest, City is still in and around that number as well. Chelsea getting a win has boosted their chances as well. And of course, Newcastle today getting the better of West Ham. So that chase back, Aston Villa as well is still in with a shout also. So the number of teams really chasing down that top four is growing from week to week. So Arsenal need to be careful of themselves and they have to keep picking up points, even though uh catching Liverpool seem to be a far and distant objective as well. So they need to be looking over their shoulder. But looking ahead though, Christoph, in terms of this season, let's assume Arsenal finishes second, a far distance off from Liverpool. Outside of a nine, what other areas would you be looking to strengthen going forward? Outside of that number nine, that elusive number nine you consistently speak of, what other areas are there that needs either tightening up or bringing in additional reinforcements
Um, Apart from the nine, which is
apart from the nine?
must be the priority, they definitely need to bring in an alternative number 10, somebody who can bring creativity, whether it be in a similar mold to Odegaard or something completely different. They do need to get that creativity. Somebody who, mixes it up for them. They definitely need to get a left winger, somebody, yeah, a very, in my opinion, a tricky winger, somebody who's going to take on players, beat them cross, shoot, whatever. But somebody who is effective game
So
week in,
someone in the
week out.
mold of, let's say, a Doku, for
No,
example.
no, no, no. Like a
No.
Nico Williams. No, no.
That seemed to be a far off dream, Christoph. Come on.
I find
Let's get
Doku to
real.
be
I don't think Arsenal will be signing Nico Williams anytime soon.
okay. I mean that's fair. You asked me who. Yeah, I'm saying somebody in the mold of a Nico Williams. I didn't say Nico Williams. Somebody
Oh,
in the
so all
mold
right.
of
In
a
terms of
Nico
the 10
Williams.
though, you're familiar with the wizard from Leverkusen, Wirtz.
Yeah, I know.
Would he be
Brits.
a good fit in that 10 role, as you say, as an alternative to a Odegaard, or even, I
I
mean, in
think
certain games you could start two tens and one holding midfielder, possibly, just to mix things up.
Definitely that is something you could do. It's something I wish Arsenal had done more of throughout the season. When you're playing some smaller opposition, you could play a more attacking team in those games. But they haven't done that. They've chosen to be, I guess, more defensively solid. Verts definitely could fit. Um, but also he's potentially a player who is leaving a team where he's a guaranteed starter, coming into a team where he might be rotating that position with a Odegaard, potentially not starting all the game. He would be a good addition. The question is, how do you manage those two
I
players?
mean, you need quality players in any team, and I mean, when you look at teams like Liverpool, who consistently rotate their midfield, then it could be a similar thing that Arteta comes in. It can't be a case where Odegaard is starting week in, week out,
Oh,
but you
definitely
can give him a
not.
rest every now
Definitely
and
not.
then and mix and match in that midfield. So at least now you will have four players to choose from, or even five. When everyone is fit, you'll have a Jorginho who is probably past his prime and on his last legs now. So possibly
Well,
he could be sold
well,
with a
no,
younger replacement coming in.
Georgina is leaving at the end of the season on a free
Right, that's what
transfer.
I'm saying.
He's
So
out
you
of
could
contract,
bring
so.
in a younger variation. As I said, similar to the mold which Liverpool has when you have a Sly, you have a Curtis Jones, you have a Gravenberch, you have a Elliott at times playing in that midfield, a McAllister. So technically, when all players are fit, Slot has at least five or six midfielders he can mix and match in that midfield and keep everyone fresh, especially if you're competing on all four fronts. And that is what Slot has been doing all season. And we are seeing the success which Liverpool is having. In addition to the lack of injuries as well, that's one thing Liverpool have been blessed with thus far this season, that not a lot of players are getting injured. And man management, as you mentioned, could be one of the key factors in that, where players are constantly being rotated, players are being subbed off after 60, 65, 70 minutes and not playing the full 90. So that recovery process is better, muscle fatigue is less, and players stay fit for longer periods. So that's probably something because, I mean, watching the game, Christoph, we saw Saka, for example, playing week in, week out, playing full 90 minutes when Arsenal leading 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. And I'm wondering to myself, why is Arteta playing Saka? Why sub him? Give him a rest, give him a break. And so said, so done. It was just a matter of time, in my opinion, before he got injured. And now he has picked up one of the key pegs in that Arsenal team. So again, as you say, man management. But such are these things, such is life, such is the nature of the game. But what can we say, Christopher, of Manchester United? I mean, we are in agreement that they have not turned a corner, but are we now seeing some positives from Amarin? What positives can they take from this game going forward?
I, I I'm not 100% certain there are a whole lot of positives.
Well, I mean, the
This,
result is positive to start from, you know.
yeah,
You
but this
didn't
is
get
the
beaten by Arsenal, who was looking
uh,
to push for the title.
yeah, but this is not what like we said. This is a derby match. This is not a game where you can gauge, in my opinion, a lot of positives because the form that United has shown went out the window
But
in
this
this
was a
game.
good test. This was a good test of your system against quality opponents.
It's a test of your system against a depleted team. I'm not sure.
But this is the same depleted team which bagged up PSV in the Champions League
It should
7-0
difference in
or
level in
7-1.
difference in level between the leagues.
Mm.
That just goes to show you how big the difference is.
Possibly, possibly, possibly. I mean, such are these things. But for sure, I mean, it's a step in the right direction for United in terms of our results. As you said, maybe
I
there are a few positives to take
I
away, but it
I
augurs
tell you
well. It,
what,
it,
it's
it will
back.
definitely help the confidence of the
I
players.
for I legitimately foresee them picking up a loss on the weekend.
Mm. Who does Manchester United play on the weekend?
United is let me double
So you're
check it.
saying it's a yo-yo
It's
type
a
scenario.
right.
Plus, I mean, they do have a Europa League midweek as well, so that could factor in a must-win game. Well, technically not necessarily a must-win. Well, a must-win game for sure. That one ended, I think the first leg finished 1-1. They have Real Sociedad at home, so it's a game they need a result from.
Oh, that that
Uh,
that is not a game they get the result from. That's not
well,
a game they get the result from. United are playing well, maybe they'll be lucky. They're playing
Well,
Leicester.
this is the Europa League. I mean, it's European competition. It's possibly a clash of styles. And Sociedad, while being a very good team, I would say last season, I think they've fallen off somewhat this season. Because isn't that the team that Mourinho was signed from, Christoph?
Mikel Moreno.
Right. So I believe he was playing for Sociedad last season, and Arsenal went and captured his signature. So Real Sociedad possibly doesn't have the same sort of quality which allowed them to qualify for the Europa League last season. So for sure, United do have a massive opportunity in this game to progress in the Europa League. And of course, as I said, the games are coming thick and fast. They are back in action come Sunday. So stranger things have happened. And but for sure, definitely a positive result in terms of the confidence that the players should take from this game going into that European clash. And of course, that game is being played at Old Trafford. So positive to look forward to. I mean, Arsenal would be rather disappointed, and now all their attention has to be the Champions League, Christoph. That's probably the only piece of silverware that they still have a legitimate chance of winning this season, albeit not many persons would favor them to lift the Champions League, but at least they should be able to progress to the next round. It, it, the game against PSV at the Emirates should really and truly be a dead rubber. I mean, just see that one out and move on
Um,
to the next round.
uh, Definitely a game that they should be seeing out, but I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes with some of these matches.
Man,
overconfidence
I
could
mean,
play
come
a
on. You
over
have a 6-0 lead on aggregate. There should be no fear. Come on, Christoph.
overconfidence could play a factor now. But I
6-0?
mean, we've seen PSG beat Barcelona heavily,
No,
and
I
then
don't
only for
see. There
Barcelona
is
to
no way PSV is coming back from a 6
oh
nil deficit away from home.
there should be no way. Indeed, there should be no way. But anything can happen in my mind.
Ah, no, come on, come on. That's wishful thinking right there, man. That's wishful thinking. But I mean, but what can we say of that Man City Nottingham Forest game, Christoph? I mean, from the start of the season, we've been saying Nottingham Forest is the real deal, and I even backed them to finish in the top four, and that backing seemed to be paying off at this point in time, getting a big 1-0 victory over Man City and boosting their chances of finishing in that top four. What can we say of this Nottingham Forest team? How many more superlatives can we use to describe the sort of quality play and results they've been getting from the start of the season? This is no fluke. This is a team well drilled, well coached, and really riding high on confidence and getting the desired results.
Right. It's obviously a brilliant win for them to beat Man City 1-0. I mean, at home, yes, 1-0 at home, but it's still Manchester City. But it also still comes back to the fact that I said I don't believe Manchester City has turned a corner. You apply pressure and they pretty much crumple.
Right,
And I
right.
mean, not to say that they were, outplayed or blitz or anything like that. It was a brilliant goal from was it Hudson-Odoi,
Hudson,
right?
though. Well, I blame the keeper, to be honest. You're being beaten at your near post right there. That's the one place you shouldn't be beaten, your near post. And, Edison Farm this season have made a number of high profile errors, which
No,
has
no, no.
contributed to the demise of City as well.
Ederson was always this keeper, but when you're not getting a lot of shots taken at you, it gets hidden.
Mm.
So the poor shot stopping is hidden by the fact that
You're not
you're
facing a
the
lot of shots.
exactly. So we've seen that here. You
Well,
can go
that has
back
always
to
been Guardiola's mantra, though. The best defense is offense. So he tends to dominate possession. But the big difference this season is that cutting edge is missing. And also, to me, the pace at which they are moving the ball from defense to midfield to forward as well. So those are the two big things which are missing that obviously, Rodri is a big miss, so that protection for the defense. But in addition to that, Man City is usually among the top scorers in the league, Christoph. And that statistic is playing out right now, where goals have somewhat diminished. That cutting edge is missing, where they are no longer breaking down teams and really exposing teams. When you look at the chances being created from game to game, very few gilt-edged chances. It's almost down to individual brilliance, the way that Man City is now scoring goals. So, I mean, that's just parts and parcels of what has been taking place. But all credit to Nottingham Forest, Christoph. All credit must go to Nottingham Forest. Another clean sheet. They have been one of the more solid defenses in the league as well, and another clean sheet against the might of City. Credit has to be given to that coaching staff led by Santos and also the players as well. Who would have thought we would have seen this version of Nottingham Forest at the start of the season? Very few would have predicted this success, if any at all.
they've done brilliantly so far, and it would be to put the cherry on top for them to finish in that top four and
I feel they
potentially
will. I feel they will.
potentially finish third. I mean, Chelsea is close by, Manchester City is close by, Newcastle is close, Brighton is also very close, and Aston Villa. Um,
So it's a straight shootout to the top four then.
like everybody from fourth to 10th is actually quite close in terms of points. So, potentially all of those teams in from fourth to 10, those Fulham, the Bournemouths, Aston Villas, they should have it in their head that they could potentially make that top four.
Definitely. I mean, teams will definitely be eyeing that top four because no one seemed to want to take control of it, in all honesty. This week you lose. Next week you win, next week you draw. No one seemed to be making that push or really solidifying themselves in that top four. So yeah, it's encouragement for other teams. But I feel I'm backing Forest to finish in that top four. I just think the sort of momentum they have will take them through. Other teams are in European competition, such as Aston Villa, who is still in European competition. We don't know if they'll qualify. The possibility is there. Uh, Chelsea still over there in Europe as well. Uh, Newcastle is in a cup final, the Carling Cup versus Liverpool, so they might have a slight distraction there also. So lots of factors. Every team has their own story that they're following, and they have their own narrative which they're writing. But for sure, I believe even this year, I think depending on how the English teams do over there in Europe, Christoph, the England may get an extra Champions League spot. So it may very well be the top five that qualifies for the Champions League coming from England with this new format as well. So finishing in
Um,
the top four is always going to be a bonus.
Potentially. Uh, just two English teams left in the Champions League, right? Liverpool and Arsenal.
That's right.
So, I
But
mean,
you still have a couple teams in the Europa League as well, or in the Europa Conference League also, which they are hot favorites. I mean, Chelsea should be hot favorites for the European Conference League. Tottenham is thereabouts as well. And of course, Manchester United in the Europa League, they should be qualifying for the next round, all things being equal. They should technically have the advantage going into the second leg versus Real Sociedad. They are playing at home and both teams are level, so that Old Trafford crowd should give them enough boost to take them forward. This is probably going to be Amorim's biggest game of his early Manchester United career, Christoph. This is one of the big high profile game of consequence, so this should give us a real testament as to how far Amorim has taken this team since his hiring by this United outfit. So that's definitely a game I'll be keeping a close eye on. Midweek, another game, Christoph. Liverpool getting the better of Southampton at home, coming from behind, 1-0 down at halftime, turning things around in the second half. What can we say of this Liverpool team? And talk us through how did they escape France with a win, Christoph? That
um,
has to be one of the more memorable defensive display by a team in Europe. Totally battered by PSG, but still getting a win to take home to Anfield.
that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that that referee was under some instructions because they got away. Liverpool got away with two penalty shots. I don't know how the VAR did not see them. Ridiculous. PSG in
Mm.
my mind. Eh,
You're speaking of the Kanate
right,
challenge.
right.
Oh, well, that should have possibly been a red card
In
offense, but I think
in
that follows outside the box.
in my opinion, PSG should definitely feel hard done on that one and should feel that they were robbed. Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know how often it happens, but I would have filed a complaint against the referee on that one because you don't look at the VAR again. I say it every week. You can't look at the VAR and still get the decision wrong.
Right.
Ridiculous. And
Well, I
every
mean,
week
what
we see it.
surprised me was that I don't believe the referee was even instructed to go to the screen. To be honest with you, that is what surprised me. He was never instructed to go and look at the screen and then decide from there. But I'm not sure if I mean, stranger things have happened. Personally, my take on VAR, you need a universal rule as it relates to VAR. Currently, now, it's almost as if the technology has different rules in the different competitions. Different rule in England, different rule in Spain, different rule in
Right.
Germany, different
Agreed.
rule
The
in Europe.
rule
What you
needs to
need
be
is a
standard
universal
across.
rule for
It
all
needs to be
VAR
right. It
decisions,
needs to be standard across all the leagues.
standard across all the leagues and competition from World Cup to under 11s. So I think that is one of the issues where in different leagues, the system is being implemented differently. In England, we've oftentimes hear this term, clear and obvious error.
I tell you what,
And then again, that now becomes subjective. What
that
constitutes a clear and obvious error?
the only clear and obvious errors I'm seeing in England is the errors that the referees are making week in, week out. Clear
Mm.
and obvious errors from
So
the
you're
referees
saying
every
the
week.
poorest referees are from England then, Christoph?
The poorest use of VAR and I guess it just in-game decisions are coming from England.
Mm. Ah, interesting times ahead for sure. But what of this Liverpool team, Christoph, looking ahead to the return leg of the Champions League versus PSG? Can Liverpool hold on and progress to the next round?
I tell you what, that game against PSG made Liverpool look like frauds, in my opinion. Because I legitimately, because I was expecting Liverpool to win that game
Well,
easily.
I thought
I was not,
I know you had predicted 3-0 win for
yeah,
Liverpool. I
easy 3-0
personally
for
know it would have
Liverpool.
been a very tight game, and I called either a loss or at best case scenario a draw, but I was surely surprised
This
for
is
a
the same
snatch and
PSG.
grab.
This is the same PSG team that struggled and got beat by Arsenal. So I have no idea
Well, I
how
mean,
they
it seems as if Enrique has found the secret sauce and has this team really
potentially.
playing well. I mean, with better finishing, this could have easily been 3-4 nil PSG.
Yeah, with better finishing, Liverpool would have been sunk in that game. But again, maybe they'll come to Anfield with a better plan, a better strike, a
What's
better
your
finishing.
call? I mean, this game takes place on Tuesday. What's your call for that game? Will Liverpool progress, or do
At
you see PSG overhauling it on the back of that performance in France?
and at home, Liverpool should be winning the game and progressive. Uh PSG might be coming with a vengeance, coming to with a bone to pick.
So
So
you're saying that Liverpool crowd is so significant that the performance we saw versus PSG, where to me they totally dominated that game, you're saying they won't be able to replicate that to
uh,
any
I don't
degree at Anfield?
I don't think you heard what I said. I said at home at Anfield, Liverpool should be winning and should be moving on. However,
Right.
PSG, based on the performance in that first leg, should be going to Anfield to go there and get the win and move forward. In my opinion, I think PSG
So what's
will
your
make.
call for that game?
I don't have
What's
a
your
call.
official call? What's the
I
call
don't
you're putting on
I
record?
I don't know who is going to go through. I think
Come
Liverpool
on.
goes through, but I think PSG has a very strong shout in there.
Ah, personally, based on how I've seen Liverpool, I think Liverpool have fallen off slightly, whether it be fatigue or mental, tired mentally, physically. There have been a fall off. I don't expect them to perform as poorly as they did in France, but it's hard to go against them, as you say, at home with a 1-0 lead. It's hard to go against them, but it wouldn't be a surprise if PSG went there and got a result and made it to the next stage because of the performance, I think this team matches up very well versus Liverpool. Their wingers are very good, which is where Liverpool is weakest along the flanks. Trent Arnold-Alexander, who surprisingly had a decent enough game. And then you have a Robertson on the opposite flank versus a Dembele and a Barcola. So it's
Difficult to call.
advantage Liverpool, but I won't be surprised if PSG really has a solid game plan because to me, probably in a sense, PSG can't perform as well as they did, and it would be very unusual for Liverpool to perform as poorly as they did also. So it's almost as if PSG had their best game, even though they ended up losing, and Liverpool had their poorest game, even though they ended up winning. It's just one of those things with football, a snatch and grab opportunity. Uh, Allison being the big hero coming up with what 9 saves in that game. And
I mean,
then,
it comes back to one of those things that I said, regardless of how poor Liverpool is playing, somehow they always find a way to score a goal. The finishers in the team are excellent. Aside from Darwin Núñez, the finishers
well, I
overall are
mean,
the
Nunes
finishing.
was on the score sheet over the weekend versus
Yeah,
Southampton as well, leading that comeback and then drawing a foul for that Salah penalty also. So he had a pretty positive game. Also, Christoph, he was the game changer in that first leg in France. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if Slot went back to him to start this one at Anfield. That could be a tactical shift that could work in favor of Slot because Jota was missing in action over there in the first leg. So, yeah, but obviously, Slot has to make some tactical tweaks in order to cope with this PSG team. No doubt about that, Christoph. He has to find some tactical tweaks, whether it be personnel or formation, something. Possibly he could employ a false nine as he did versus City. Don't play with any striker. Uh, Gagpo is now fit, so you could deploy Gagpo on the left, play Diaz through the middle, and employ somewhat of a false nine. Play 10 men behind the ball and then play on the counter. That could possibly work. It worked against City. Possibly it could work against this PSG team as well. But to me, if they go head to head or man to man, as they did over there in France, it will be curtains for Liverpool.
Definitely, that's something that they could deploy, right? And they play the counter. Liverpool are excellent on the counter. Again, you maximize Salah's finishing. Uh, I think more important than figuring out how you're going to attack in those games is figuring out how you're going to protect those flanks from the PSG wingers. I
Right?
think is the
Or
most
even
important
possibly
thing.
move Salah inside as well and play a more
Defensive.
defensively minded right winger like a Elliott who is going to trap back. So possibly play Salah through the middle, Diaz on the left, Gagpo on the bench in case you have a plan B in mind, and you start a Elliott who came up with the winning goal. He should be buzzing with confidence as well. So it could be that Elliott plays on the right, play Salah through the middle, Diaz on the left, and then your usual midfield three and your usual backline. But for sure, some sort of tactical change is going to be required for this game. Let's just hope that Liverpool has enough to get past this PSG team. But officially, I have no choice but to back Liverpool, Christoph. But I think it's gonna be a nail biter. I think it's gonna be a nail biter, and it may very well go down to penalty. It would not surprise me if it goes down to penalty. But I'm gonna back Liverpool to take this one, 2 goals to 1, and progress to the next round. It could even end as a draw, to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended up as a 1-1 draw, but Liverpool progressing on aggregate because I fear for this Liverpool team versus PSG, Christoph. I fear for this Liverpool team. As I said, it's gonna take everything the manager and players have to really get past this team. Sometimes you just find some teams which you match up poorly against. And I think this is probably Liverpool's Achilles heel in terms of the way they match up against PSG. The best players for PSG can be found on the flanks. And the worst players for Liverpool from a defensive point of view is along the flank. So it's strengths versus weakness, man to man. So we'll see how it goes. But my official call, Liverpool to win, 2 goals to 1. What says you? Do you have an official call to put on record, Christoph,
I,
or
I, I
are you
don't I don't
still
I
steering
don't
clear of making a decision?
I don't have an official score or anything like that, but I think Liverpool playing at home, already having the advantage, do go through.
Mm. Interesting times ahead for sure. Champions League action coming up Tuesday and Wednesday. But I mean, in terms of the English team, the Arsenal game should be a fairly dead rubber. Liverpool all to play for. Aston Villa still need to hold out, get a result in that one. And those are the teams from England which uh should be in contention. But again, another interesting game though, Christoph, is that Madrid derby. The return leg takes place at the home of Atletico, the Metropolitan Panana, the Metropolitan
Metropolitana,
Tano,
Tana.
Metropolitano. Yeah, so the return leg is there. And that game had 3 beautiful goals, Christoph. I must say, I've never seen a game with such quality strikes, quality finishes. It was Real Madrid who took the lead through a curling effort by Rodrigo, only for Alvarez, that man who signed from Man City, now plying his trade in Spain, coming up with another beautiful curler in the top left-hand corner. And then former Man City player Diaz finding that goal, another wonderful cut in and shoot. Uh, so all to play for in that game as well. What says you? Who goes through in that one?
Um, advantage Real Madrid, but I feel like Atletico will put up an excellent fight. I think Atletico have enough to go through. I just don't know what will happen on the day.
What's your call?
It, I
Give us your call, Christoph. You
I'm
have to
calling it. I'm calling it Real Madrid to go through to
Real
win.
Madrid to go through.
Yeah,
Well,
to win the match and to go through.
I had backed Atletico to progress, so I'm gonna stick with that backing Atletico to progress. I feel as you said, they have enough. It's a one goal deficit. I feel if they can get the first goal, the momentum should be with them, and they should have enough to progress to the next round. So I'm gonna stick to my guns. I'm gonna go with Atletico for the upset in that match. But stranger things have happened, as you say, advantage Real Madrid. So they should obviously enter this one clear favorites. In fact, they should be one of the favorites, clear favorites to lift the trophy in and of itself. But they first have to get past Atletico. And I believe in the next round, Christoph, doesn't Madrid, if Madrid goes through, their next opponent would be Arsenal, if
Would
memory
be
serves me
Arsenal.
correctly.
The winner of that fixture will face Arsenal.
So that should be another interesting game as well. uh, regardless of who progresses. But I'm gonna back Atletico. I feel Diego Simeone at home in that sort of hostile environment with players I would say still confident enough. It's a Madrid derby, and as we often say, anything can happen in a derby settings. Tempers may flare, players may get red cards, and that may give the team who has 11 a distinct advantage over the team which has 10. So lots to play for still in these Champions League fixtures. But Christoph, any final thoughts as it relates to what we've been seeing in the football thus far? The season is quickly drawing to a close. I mean, we're in the final quarter of the season, and this is the time for trophies. What can we say about the football going forward?
Yeah, there's, obviously the football has been very good so far this season. Hopefully it continues to be good. I can't go away from, the poor level of officiating that we've seen all season. It needs to be better going forward, and it definitely needs to be better even next season. Definitely, it can't continue. Uh, as you saw, Skelly came on off the bench against United. Your red card was overturned again. I told you it wasn't a red card offense.
Mm.
So the level of officiating,
Yeah, yeah,
absolute
and the thing is,
garbage.
once those decisions are made in game, then obviously it hurts the team. So regardless of the
Mhm.
repercussions which take place after the fact, the result still stands. It's not as if games are being replayed because a player was mistakenly sent off or a goal which was scored was supposed to be chalked off and it wasn't. At the end of the day, the result still stands. So for sure, officiating is a common issue which we need to get right. Obviously, you can't be
Uh,
100%
not
correct,
not
but
just get right. The officiating is 100% affecting the results of the game, and they are especially affecting Arsenal because Arsenal so far this season are the only team who have had players sent off and carded for time wasting, despite the fact that I've seen lots of team time wasting and them talking about letter of the law bullshit every week. So
well, that's
clearly there's a bias against Arsenal from the
well,
refereeing standpoint. I'm glad though that teams are starting to complain about the referees now because we see Michael Oliver getting barred from games again
well,
from the weekend. So those poor decisions, teams are starting to complain that the referees are making the wrong decisions, and we've seen at least something happening.
all right. Well, that's all the time we have. Christoph, thanks again for passing through and sharing your thoughts and opinions. Viewers and subscribers, thank you for tuning in to us. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.